Hello, everybody, and welcome to the FemmePowerU Google Hangout. So excited to be here with you today. I'm Mara Hoover, founder and creator of FemmePowerU, empowering women and entrepreneurs to find fulfillment and financial freedom on their terms. I am so excited today to have an amazing woman here on the call, Carrie Sharpshair, and we're going to be having an incredibly fun and enlightening conversation about how you can, as an entrepreneur, really work on your business and develop your business owner muscles. So before I introduce Carrie, I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to jump in with our first questions. So Carrie is known as the facilitator of aha moments. She is the master in helping business owners develop the managerial muscles they need to get focused, get clients, and get paid. Carrie brings over 25 years of experience in the corporate world with Fortune 500 companies and startups alike, and has helped hundreds of solopreneurs through her inspirational talks and programs. She is the co-author of the Amazon bestseller, 25 Brilliant Business Mentors, Their Top Tips to Catapult You to Success, and she's known as the Sharp Cookie because of her ability to cut through the confusion and build a business that works. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to take decisive action and stake your claim as a confident, profitable business owner now. Welcome to the show, Carrie. We're so excited to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Mara. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you today.
It's fun to be hanging out.
Definitely. Hanging out in a good way.
In a good way, exactly. Hanging out and getting stuff done. All right, so let's jump right into the first question. What I want to know is, how did you get started helping Cheif Everything Officers? I love that term, by the way. All of us CEOs out there. How did you help getting these Cheif Everything Officers to find success? What got you started?
Yeah, having spent so long in the corporate world, I think I was pretty much born to do this kind of thing anyway, and I started noticing in the corporate world things that made people successful and what didn't make them successful. And after 9/11, I was really dissatisfied with working in the corporate space. And so I took the first big leap and opened up my own personal chef service here in the area.
Wow.
Because I love cooking and I love business, and I thought, well, let's put it together in one business. And it was great for about 3 years until I decided and determined that it wasn't the right business for me. I decided that, I loved the business of my business much more than I liked the delivery of that particular service. Plus, I knew for me that in order to take that business really to the next level where it needed to be required a lot more capital than I was willing to invest. And it wasn't just the financial capital, but it was, the emotional capital and the physical capital to really take it to the next level. So I sold the business. And all of my business friends that I was networking with said, wait a minute, what in the world are you doing? Because everyone knows about your business, your marketing is great, please help me do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I really got started. And then, I've done everything from work with startup nonprofit organizations. I've worked with lawyers and accountants and chiropractors, massage therapists, a lot of coaches recently, and everything in between. And I can say that I absolutely love it. And we all know, especially as a solopreneur, which, that's where my heart lies, because I truly believe that it's us solopreneurs and the small mom and pop businesses that really are the glue that kind of holds everything together. And
Right.
I think we're on the forefront of really helping to turn the economy around. So it's something that it's very near and dear to my heart. And I know what it's like to struggle and be on a shoestring, and I know what it's like to have to manage everything. So that's
Right.
what I do.
Awesome. So you were really able to take a lot of that corporate experience, the things that you learned, and you were able to glean the positive things from it,
That's
and then mix your actual true success that you had in building a business that people from the outside saw as being extremely successful. Whether or not you were fulfilled in it is a different story, but you had actually built the success of the business,
Yes.
which is great. And you were able to blend those two things together. And what I see kind of in my notes is, through your own success, you were able to begin to help other people, because people said, well, how did you do it? And then you turned that into a business, which is incredible.
Yeah, and for a while when I first started out on the consulting side, it was pretty exclusive. And I'd go into someone's office and it really dawned on me that, this is something I'm good at and I can teach people how to do because I found for me that when I was exclusive with a client, it turned into something where they looked at me as an employee and I ended up caring more about their business than they did. And I'm like,
Okay.
wait a minute, there's something wrong here. So, shifted the focus a little bit in terms of how I helped people and so much more fulfilled in what I'm doing now. It's great.
Awesome. And it keeps you kind of in charge and you get to run your own business instead of someone thinking you're an employee, which is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so I see that you noticed at one point when you were building this, you noticed a real disconnect between business skills and business owner skills, and that's what you call your business owner muscles. So can
Hmm.
you tell me more about what you mean by business owner muscles and maybe how we can develop those as business owners and solopreneurs?
Absolutely. So, you know, I have a degree in business. Now, I have to say that nothing that I learned in school taught me how to be a business owner. There's a couple classes that stand out and some things that, I remember and that I've utilized, but nothing really teaches you or prepares you for the life of an entrepreneur, other than just diving in and doing it. And
Right.
yes, there's skills that we have to have in terms of, yes, we need to know what marketing is and how to market, and yes, we need to know how to sell. But what I've found and what I'm calling, the business owner muscles is, that there are six real core skills that I think that if you have them and you continue to master them, that you will be successful whether or not you're running, a startup business where maybe your goal is to make, 50, $60,000 a year, to breaking that six-figure mark and then going further into multi-six or even seven-figure mark. And they really are like what I call the kind of the core muscles. Like when we think about our own bodies, we have our core muscles, right? Well, these to me are the six core business owner muscles. Business owner muscles.
Mhm. Awesome. So before we jump in, I'm very curious to find out what those six business owner muscles are, and I know we're going to jump into that. But first, I just wanted to comment a little bit on what you were saying about getting prepared in school for really taking on and owning a business.
Yeah.
And as a financial advisor and creator of FemmePowerU and a curriculum, I get a chance to speak quite a bit. And one of the places I've been blessed enough to be invited to speak is to the entrepreneurship club at our local college here in San Marcos, as well as to the entrepreneurship students who are getting a degree in entrepreneurship.
Mm.
And once a semester, the professor invites me in, and these kids are in their last semester of their getting their college degree. And when I walk in there and talk to them about basic personal finance, that's the first conversation they have ever had about money
Yeah.
and how to
Yeah.
manage it on their own. And so I just wanted to point that out because that's something that I see on my end as well, that, yeah, sure, you're going and you're getting some of that education, but these kids who think they want to leave and start businesses don't even know the difference between a regular IRA and a Roth IRA and how that's going to affect their future. They don't know how to get started, and they're not going to have corporate jobs with cushy matching in their 401k.
Yeah, the landscape's totally different nowadays.
It really is, and so we've got to prepare these kids. So I do that in the financial world, and you do that in the business world. So let's jump in and tell me more about the six business owner muscles.
Okay, great. So let me give you just, I'm going to blow through the six and then we're going
Okay.
to dive into them a little deeper.
Okay.
So, what the six core muscles are, this is the muscle of your environment. And when I say the muscle, so that's kind of the content area. And my philosophy is that each of these, in terms of managing them, is a practice. It's an ongoing practice. Because as we know, that the more you practice something, the more permanent the habit becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the practice of managing the muscle. So the first muscle is your environment. And it's not only your physical environment, but it's also the internal and the mental environment. And we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a little bit. Then we have the muscle of time. Time management is just so crucial for anyone. And if you know, do any type of searching at all, you know, anyone that can help you with time management, you know, their calendar is probably pretty booked because it's a challenge that most people have.
Yeah.
And we'll dive into that in a second. The next muscle is your tasks and your task management, kind of how you manage that day-to-day to-do list or that honey-do list. And let's face it, and Mara, your crowd is primarily female. And, you know, sorry to say, most of the general activity in your family life falls on your shoulders as a female.
Yep.
If you're married, if you have kids, you're still the one. It doesn't matter that you're running your own empire. You're still the one who's coordinating the childcare and the shopping and the food and the getting stuff to the dry cleaners, right? It's everything.
Right.
So how you manage those tasks is so critical for you to be able to be, you know, focused and on target. And then the next muscle, which is probably one of my favorites, is projects, managing your projects. And you know, it's really funny because I teach project management skills to my clients, and it really comes down to really coordinating and understanding what has to be done, when it has to be done, and what resources you have available to get it done. And so for ladies out there, if you're thinking that I'm going to be recommending that you go out and spend all kinds of time and money and getting these, you know, huge project management certifications, no need. Because I'm going to assuage your fears right now. If you have ever put together a Thanksgiving dinner and all of the food is done on time and it's hot and Aunt Sally's not complaining because something's gone wrong, you are a project manager. So
I love that. That's amazing.
I just want to, you know, tell you that it's possible for everybody. And then the next muscle is your processes. And this is something that I see people just get hung up on all the time. And when I talk about systems and processes, I'm not talking about huge, elaborate, you know, multi-hundred thousands of dollars computer systems. While those are definitely helpful, the thing is that you have to manage your processes first and kind of design out what you're doing. And a great example of a process is, so let's say you're out networking and you're gathering business cards from people and you know you have to follow up with these people. Well, what is that follow-up process? So I look at, you know, what are all the things that you do on a daily basis, weekly or monthly, that are things that are repeatable processes, repeatable steps. And definitely jump in there and get checklists done, because the more organized you are that way, it helps when you go to bring somebody on to help you. You can turn that process over to someone and you can teach and train to it, and then things are done consistently and things don't fall through the cracks.
That's awesome. That's a great one.
Thank you. And last but not least, the muscle and the practice of managing your relationships. And, you know, people come in and out of our lives, and, you know, think about if you've ever been kind of in a corporate world, you know that there's different relationships in play. So you've got a managerial relationship, maybe with a boss or with your own employees. You've got kind of some coworker relationships, and then you have all your regular, you know, out of the office relationships. And you know that there are people out there that are super toxic. You know, and they're the ones that you hang around over at the water cooler and all they want to do is gossip. And it totally takes you away from, you know, what you need to do. Pardon me. So the process of managing your relationships in that practice is really all about setting those boundaries, getting really clear, and being able to communicate effectively with people around you so that you can accomplish what you need to. So that's the overview of the 6 there. So Mara, I know I'm going to let you be our guide and leader and tell me where you want me to dive in a little deeper based on the time that we've got.
Well, one of the things that I have really found as I've been developing my business, and it's creating a couple of different branches within what I do, and bringing on my first 2 office staff. I have a joint venture manager, and then I have an office manager. And I didn't have any systems. It was all in my head. And I can tell you it's been painful for all of us, and thank God they're so willing to work with me. But for a lot of it, I didn't even know. I knew I needed help. I knew there was too much on my plate, but I didn't even know what I could tell them they needed to do because I didn't have a system. And so I think that's something, if we can dive in a little bit more into the processes and maybe give a few tips on how somebody can get started in developing these systems, and maybe a framework that would allow them to start to maybe pick one process that they have in their business that they could begin to systematize.
Absolutely. So, the whole thing about systemization and processes is the idea is that you want to eliminate the kind of what I call the in between time that stuff happens. So, when you look at, if we think of a process, it's usually there's a starting point and there's an end point to a process. And a lot of times what will happen with us, and think about if you're sitting at your desk and you know that there's a kind of either a standard email that you send to someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you think, okay, I sent this great email to Joe last week. Now I got to go find that email from Joe. And then I have to copy it and then I have to edit it a little bit.
Yep.
And I have to figure out where it is.
Yeah.
Well, what you could do is you could say, okay, well, this particular email to Joe, it was a follow-up from a conversation and he wanted more information from me. So great. Let me say that I've got a follow-up process for people who want more information from me.
Mm-hmm.
Can take that email and you can simplify it and strip out all the personal detail about Joe and maybe what you talked about and put the shell in place of a template email. And it might just say hi, and then there's a blank so you can fill in the person's name later.
Right.
And your standard languaging around, it was so great to meet you, and then you fill in the personal details for him. But you mentioned that you'd like to have some additional information from me. Well, I've got this great info that I'd like to send to you, and all of that can be, that can be in this template. And then
Mm-hmm.
all you're doing is putting the process or the basics in place for him.
Got it.
Now, let's say that part of your process is, and that you're going to want to send or you're going to want to follow up with a phone call to Joe, right? So what you might want to do if you put the next step in your process, so step one might be enter Joe's contact information into my database, whatever that database might be. And
Right.
I'm a big proponent of start manually first,
Mm-hmm.
because here's the deal with systems when you're talking about automated kind of systems. If you don't have your manual process first, automation is only going to make it screw up faster. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I've done multi-million dollar system implementations from medical device companies and biotech companies. And the first thing they always want to do is, let me automate this process. And so when we start digging in and they realize that their process stinks to begin with, and then they
Right.
realize, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend millions of dollars to automate something that stinks. So do manual first. So
Yeah.
step one might be enter business cards. Step
Got it.
two might be send email. Step three might be follow up with a phone call, right?
Got it.
So put those things together, and I'm a huge fan of checklists to get started. So you may have 5 people that you're following up with. Keep that kind of close and handy and
Mm-hmm.
just review that. Am I doing what I need to do? And that's a great way to just get started. Does
So
that
that could
help?
be, yeah, definitely. So that could be as simple as somebody setting it up and that literally just writing it out on a yellow pad or typing up a Word doc with step one, step two, step three, so that if they were to ever hire someone, they could literally hand that system over. Or if they step into a program like Infusionsoft, which is better known as Confusionsoft for a lot of people, um, it will help them because they've already thought through the process. And I think that's really what you're saying is we have to think about our process before we try and automate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think we've all probably heard that, ready, fire, aim kind of approach. And there really is something to be said for taking a little bit of time and just kind of thinking. And this kind of alludes to the project part of what I was talking about.
Okay.
Think about a beginning and a middle and an end. And I like to have people just start thinking in sequences. If I do this, what's the logical next thing that I need to do? And when I
Mm-hmm.
do that, what's the logical next thing there? Because it's so easy for us to just dive in and start doing stuff that then everything is chaotic all the way around. And my personal view is that if your business and your life is operating under chaos mode,
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong there. That
Yeah.
chaos should be the exception and not the rule.
Got it. So you touched a little bit on projects. Why don't we talk a little bit about time? Because I know this really is, since I work a lot more with female entrepreneurs than male entrepreneurs, I think that's something that we really have to deal with quite a bit, is figuring out how do we manage everything else that's on our plate and still run a business to the level of success that we really want to create.
Yeah. So time is one of those things, and we all know we all get the same amount. Mara, you have the same amount
Darn
of
it.
time that I do. Nobody gets any more,
Right.
you know? So it's the 24 hours in the day. But how is it that some people are just, they seemingly are able to just get so much more done? And I
Mm-hmm.
think at the heart of that lies in understanding and knowing the value of your time, because there is a value, to
Right.
our time. And it's not necessarily what you may charge someone as your hourly rate to work with you. It's really dependent on, the number of hours that you want to be working, the number of productive hours in a day. And here's an interesting kind of fact for you guys, especially for solopreneurs. If you look, let's just take a typical 40-hour week. Now, I know that's a joke, right? Because we're all working more than 40 hours a week, or most of
Yeah.
us in startup mode, right? Are.
Yes.
But let's just take a typical 40-hour week. Do you know that if you looked at your calendar and you actually saw how much actual productive time you have, it's probably 10 to 15 hours,
Ooh.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
Because everything else is, we've got marketing, right, to do. We've got prepping for, a client. We've got the actual, client work. So your time becomes so incredibly valuable. And when you know the dollar amount that's associated with an hour of your time, it
Mm-hmm.
really helps you make decisions a little easier. How many of us, right, have got sucked into the that total time sucker of, hey, let's have coffee, right?
Right.
Me, totally guilty.
Yep.
Used to be
That's how I
guilty.
grew my business for the first 2 years was, oh, let's just go have coffee.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for that. However, when you know the value of your time, let's say that the number for you works out to, it's $125 an hour. Let's just say that's what the number is. And you know that if you're going to go have an hour-long coffee meeting with somebody, that's $125. And there's a half hour to travel there, a half hour to travel back. So let's say you're at 2 hours. That coffee meeting better be worth $250 to you, right? So whether
Right.
it's a potential client, whether it's a partner, whether it's somebody who can potentially bring business to you, you have to make that determination as to whether or not getting up and traveling to that meeting is worth it for you.
Right.
Maybe it makes sense to have a 30-minute, half-hour conversation on the phone first and then determine whether or not you want to go have coffee with somebody.
Yeah, that's been something that I've started to implement in my business over the last 6 to 8 months is like I said, when I first started, I came out of the construction industry. I was taking over my dad's construction company. I thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And so I moved into the wide world of women's networking as a young 20-something, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And so I would literally just meet people and call them and say, hey, let's go have coffee. And as my business has developed, it's moved into, okay, I need to be more efficient with my time.
Mm,
What systems can I put in place? What tools can I use? I know both of us use Time Trade, which
yes.
is a great way for people to be able to book appointments. Yeah, so we're not literally not emailing back and forth 17 times trying to set an appointment. So using some of those systems can also streamline the process. But I love what you're saying about how important it is. So you're not saying don't go have the coffee meeting, but you're
Right.
saying make sure you know the value of your time. So when you're choosing whether or not to have this coffee meeting, it's going to allow you to really be clear on the time that you're spending and what that's quote unquote costing you.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's where, especially for us ladies, right? Because we've got girlfriends who may be either working or they're owning their own business, or maybe they're stay-at-home moms, right? And they love to get out and have a lunch every now and then. And so, looking at, okay, if I go take this time for that, that's going to take me away from making the sales calls I need. So maybe then the decision is, hey, I can't do lunch today, but maybe we can go do happy hour, on another day. So that's where it comes into play, and it really helps on the relationship side too. Let's say you've got, parents or sisters or, even your spouse. that, likes to maybe try to interrupt you in the middle of the day,
Uh-huh.
being really clear about, hey, you know what, this time I really need to be focusing on what I need to do. But you know what, give me a buzz after 4, give me a buzz after 5. I'll have much more time to hang out with you.
Right. Awesome. I love those tips. So I know some people on the call are probably at this point feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like, holy smokes, where do I get started? I'm struggling in so many of these areas, so what's first? So can
Yeah.
you tell me, if there's somebody out there that is struggling in most of these areas, what's their next step?
So this gets back into, for me, and this is kind of a buzz, it's a buzz phrase that's been going around for a while now, but it's really, really important to understand why you're in business. And, there's a lot of stuff out there about know your why, know your why. And I'm not talking about at this stage maybe your whole life's purpose, because let's face it, as we age and we grow and things happen in our lives, we develop some wisdom along the way, and
Mm-hmm.
what we may have thought at one stage in our life is a little different from another stage. So I'm not
Right.
talking about your grand life purpose, but there's got to be a reason that you wanted to be in business for yourself.
Got
And
it.
so, look at why you're in business, and then ask yourself the question, well, why am I in this business? Because we all have choices, right? We can choose to go work at Starbucks and be a barista. We can choose to go work in a corporate setting and be an employee. But we've chosen, this crazy warrior path of being an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And so, why? And why this particular business? Remember when I was talking earlier about the personal chef service? It
Right.
started out, great, I loved it. And then it wasn't the right business for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that was the turning point to say, okay, time to sell it, and move on. So start with
Right.
knowing your why.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note in your chef business that if you wouldn't have created that business, you wouldn't probably have found out that you love the business of business.
Exactly, because I knew nothing. I was the ready, fire, aim person.
Mm-hmm.
I got the knowledge that I needed. I went out and started it, and then I said, okay, great. In order to do this, I have to market myself. Okay, now I
Right.
remember some marketing from college, but this is different.
Yeah.
So, I had to go get the skills that I need. And the other thing that I would encourage people to do is, you have your own personal reasons for doing things, but also ask yourself, why is it important for those around you to do the
Mm-hmm.
work that you're doing? So not only your clients, but why is it important to your family? Why is it important to your loved ones? And really get super duper clear on why you're doing what you're doing. Because I find personally that having that why helps me really through the down times. Because let's face it, being an entrepreneur is a constant roller coaster, right?
Absolutely.
And I love roller coasters in real life. I'm not so much of a fan of them in my business, right?
Right.
But because I've got a really strong internal motivation and a strong why I want to do what I do, not only for me and my family, but for my clients as well, and because of the way I feel about, entrepreneurship in general, that helps keep me motivated in those times when things are, to quote my nana, going to hell in a handbasket, right? So that's the very first step that I would suggest.
Okay.
You ready for another tip?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the next step that I would recommend is, so now that you're kind of clear on your why, is to identify what success actually means to you. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. There's a lot of mentors out there who tout, have a 6-figure business, have a 7-figure business.
Right.
That's one element of success, is just the financial income part. But what I love
Mm-hmm.
working with people on is to really identify, what does success mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter what Sally says or, the Joneses next door. It's you and how you want to live your life. And so I like to break it down into, what are, I call them success factors or elements
Okay.
of your own success, and personally and professionally. And I like
Got
to
it.
break it down even further in terms of, tangible things that you can see and touch and measure, and intangible, like how you want to feel about something. So great, just a super great example is, let's say on the personal side, an element of success to you is having a certain amount of money in your checkbook, or being able to send your kids to a certain college, right? Or being
Hmm.
able to take a vacation whenever you want. So there's those are things that are very tangible. You can see them, measure them, everything. And at the end of the day, how do you want to feel about your life personally? What is that to you? Some people have a very strong spiritual element. Some people want to feel, completely connected and engaged. Look at the
Right.
business side, same thing. Do you have tangible income goals? In our world, list size is pretty important. What is that list size that tells you you're successful? How many
Right.
clients are you serving? So it's the same thing. Do that exercise and see where they kind of overlap, and really identify what success means to you, because that kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow path as well, especially when, because business can be very chaotic. It helps to hone you back in on what's important to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do a little bit of that success defining work in a different way, but I've created a visualization that I take people through that helps them to actually see that image,
Mhm.
and then they can pick out of that the things that you really recommend, which are what personally, what professionally, what tangible, what intangible. That's a great way to meld those two things together. I love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a fun little exercise to do, because, in the grand scheme of things, when you have that laid out in front of you and you can take a look at it and you could say, wait a second, originally I thought I wanted to have a multi six-figure business. Well, you know what? That really isn't going to fit me. I'm totally fine with a $60,000 a year business, and that's okay. And you don't
Yeah.
have to be pressured,
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah,
So,
the example that I see a lot is with women and body image. So you go into the grocery store and you're shopping, and then all of a sudden there's this giant rack of magazines with all of these beautiful women who not only are airbrushed, but generally they're in really good shape, and it's because they get paid to work out.
yeah,
And so I don't beat myself up that I don't look like that, because I don't get paid to work out. I get paid to do other things, and so I'm not going to have a body that looks like I get paid to work out. Plus, I like pizza, so I'm not willing to give that up. And I'm able to make that decision, and instead of feeling like I have to compare myself to that, I'm able to say, no, I don't want those things, and these are the reasons why. Or I don't have unrealistic expectations that I should have that without being willing to put in the work. And
yeah,
if you take that to really how we see success, it's the same thing. There's Success Magazine, and it's got high-end car ads in it all over the place, and some people just could care less about having a high-end car.
yeah.
But sometimes they feel guilty or shameful because they feel like they should want it. And so dealing in that area is really, really important. That's why I love so much of what you're saying with really identifying that for each individual.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, and I'm in this boat too. I join mentorship programs, and I've done mastermind programs and stuff. And I can tell you that, the people who I see really succeed and come out of those really well and be able to really quantum leap their businesses are those that are very strong internally first and foremost. Because
Yep.
what can happen is, if you're not really tied into that for yourself, you can be overly persuaded by groupthink that
Yeah.
totally takes you off track. And I'll be the first to admit, this happened to me about 4 years ago. I went in pretty confident with where I was aligned and what I wanted to do. And when I started sharing that with others, they were in a whole different mindset. And then I started questioning myself and doubting myself. And darn it, if it
Yeah.
didn't take about a year and a half until I cycled right back around to doing exactly what I wanted to do and being successful at it. And, I could, shoulda, woulda, coulda, you
Right.
look back and it's like, no, had I been stronger in my own confidence and belief in myself, I
Mhm.
would have been that year and a half further. But I think, it's all a good learning point, because now, it's part of what I teach. And
Right.
so it's all good.
Yeah, we learn what we need to, or we teach what we need to learn the most, I guess. So we keep
Yes.
learning those tough subjects. Sometimes I wish I didn't choose money to teach on, because I always get to learn all of the lessons.
Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you for on behalf of all of us for going through those things. So,
My pleasure. All
so
right. So, are there anything else that you would say if somebody's kind of struggling in those areas that will help them to get started and moving forward?
yeah, and some of this gets back to our core muscle of the on the project side.
Hmm.
It's really interesting to me when I work with people who, they don't know how to plan at
Hmm.
all. They don't know a process for planning. They just dive in and then they get squirreled, all over the place. And so I would say, really develop your kind of your planning muscle and then also the
Okay.
take action muscle right along with it because I, I am a recovering perfectionist. Okay. I can put together a project plan that would just delight, the socks off of you. Right. And there are times in my past where I like the planning more than the taking action because the
Hmm.
planning part is really where my specific genius is.
Right.
Problem comes in, you can plan and plan and plan, and then you get stuck in analysis paralysis and never take any step, never take any action.
Right.
And we all know logically and intuitively that you can't make progress unless you're in action.
Hmm.
And so knowing how to plan is one thing, and knowing how to take action is another. And it's kind of like peanut butter and chocolate, right? They have to be this yummy mix together. So know how to plan and take action, and really start small. If this is so overwhelming to you, pick something. Pick
Right.
2 or 3 goals, figure out how you're going to get them done, and go start taking action, because I can tell you the more that you practice these things, the easier that becomes, the more second nature it becomes, and momentum helps with everything, right? It's like the rock rolling down the hill. It starts
Uh-huh.
off small, or like the snowball effect, right? It starts small and it gathers and gathers and gathers, and the next thing you know, you're just on fire.
Yep.
So, and put a strong support system in place. So,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about jumping out and hiring people right away, but, look at people around you that can help support you. Can your spouse or your loved one or your partner, take out the trash so you don't have to? Do
Hmm.
you have kids that can come in at the end of the day and dump the trash out of your office for you? Or, get them, if they're young, get them started with, feeding the animals, doing some things, take some things off of your plate just so that you have a support system. Always have a girlfriend that you have a total freedom to vent. I've got friends that it's like, permission to cuss now, permission to vent now, have somebody that you can go to that, because let's face it, we've got an image or a persona, right, with our
Hmm.
clients, and you want to be real and engaging, yes. But there are times when you don't want people really seeing you let your hair down because it might be kind of ugly, right? So have somebody that you can go to and say, permission to be really ugly, with right
Yep.
now, because
Yep.
you gotta have that outlet. So have some support people in place who can give you the support that you need when you need it.
Awesome. So, in recapping, what you'd say is for somebody who really is ready to get on the right track, they need to pick at just one or two things that they're going to work on first, and then really focus on building that support system. I think those are two huge action items that people can take away from this session that we've spent together, because that's taking it piece by piece, and that
Absolutely.
really helps so that we don't exhaust ourselves.
Right. Right.
Always treat each other with grace. That's and treat ourselves with grace. That's the really important part. Be nice to yourself.
Yeah, and it's, I saw, it's not really a joke, but it's a little story that I saw recently that highlights it really well. And it's, nothing is what it seems, right? There's always a different meaning behind it. And the little story goes that there are two angels, and they stop at a farmhouse one night, and one of the angels notices a hole in the wall, and she patches up the hole. Now the owners of the farmhouse are very mean. They put these angels out in a barn, with no blankets and all this other stuff. So one of the angels says to the other angel, "But why in the world did you patch this hole for these really mean people?" And she said, "Things aren't always what they seem." And then the next night they go to another farmhouse and they are welcomed and greeted, and everything is wonderful, and these people just basically gave their hearts and their souls to these angels. And in the middle of the night, the one angel, we'll call her the head angel, the head
Okay.
angel actually takes the life of the family's cow. And the other angel says, why in the world did you do that? That's their only source of income, and everything. And the head angel says, it's not always what it seems. And so they were on their journey, and the second angel was so bothered, and she said, you really have to explain to me. And the head angel says, well, at the first house, the hole in the wall revealed that there was a stack of money in there, and I didn't want those nasty people to have that stack of money to be even more nasty. And she said, and at the second house, she says, the angel of death was coming to take the life of the wife, and I did not want them to take the life of the wife, so I asked them to please take the life of the cow. And to me, that is such a powerful story and a powerful reminder that you may be feeling chaotic, you may be
Right.
feeling out of control as a business owner, and to take that step back and to say, it's not always what it seems.
Right.
So hopefully that helped a little bit.
Yeah, that gives a lot of clarity. So what I do in every Hangout is give the amazing person I'm interviewing the ability to give something to connect with our listeners and those who end up seeing this video on our website, which is FemmePowerU.com/hangout. And for those of you out there who would like to actually subscribe and receive invitations to all of the Hangouts that we do on Wednesdays, go ahead and head over to FemmePowerU.com/hangout. You can subscribe right there, and then you'll get all of those invitations for the future events that we have coming up. And so, Carrie, why don't you tell us how listeners can find out more about you, and then I know you have an awesome free offer for them as well. So let's go ahead and go through that right now.
I do, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at the same thing that I'm sending everybody to here. So the best way to for Mara's crowd to get connected in is to go to www.simplystrategicsuccess, I know a lot of S's, simplystrategicsuccess.com/Mara, M-A-R-A. And what you're going to find there are 3 tasty goodies from me. And the first is what I call, it's your success essentials for Cheif Everything Officers. So this is an audio and a guidebook, and it's totally hitting on what we talked about earlier in terms of knowing your why and getting to those success factors. So there's, like I said, there's an audio in there that kind of guides you through it, and then there's an actual guide where you can start writing out those tangible and intangible elements of what success means to you. And I've had people come back to me really saying a couple different things. One, this really got me focused on what it is that I want to do. And other people have come back to me and said, wow, you know what, going through this, I realized that's not the direction I want to go in. I need to go in a different direction.
Wow.
So very, very, very powerful stuff there. The second little goodie is an opportunity to chat with me one-on-one about some things that are going on in your business that may or may not be working. And the way I do these consultations is, it is totally giving to you. So we look at some challenges that you've got going on. We're going to do some brainstorming and some action planning for you on that one specific challenge, because an hour we're not going to be able to solve everything, right?
No.
So we're going to hone in and pick the most important thing. And the way I work mine is only if I think that there's an opportunity to work together, I'll let you know what that looks like. But I'll always give recommendations. I always give referrals. And if it looks like we might be a fit, I'll let you know. But it's totally, the whole thing is all about you and what you need. And I absolutely love doing them because my brain just doesn't stop brainstorming for people.
Awesome.
And then the third little gift is my monthly newsletter. It's called The Sprig. And so, I like to look at everything we're doing as like little sprigs of information or a little, a sprout of something going on. So it's called The Sprig, chock full of tips, tricks, and words of wisdom for Cheif Everything Officers. And if it's not your cup of tea, you know the drill. You just click unsubscribe. Pretty easy.
Perfect.
So those are the 3 things that I have. So again, it's simplystrategicsuccess.com/Mara.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Carrie. Those are amazing gifts, especially an opportunity to chat with you one-on-one. I hope everybody that sees this agrees to take Carrie up on that. And we've made it really simple for you. If you head on over to FemmePowerU.com/hangout, some of you are probably already watching this video there. There will be a button right below the video that will allow you, it will link you directly to Carrie's website where you'll be able to go and get those gifts. So that will make it super simple for you. And Carrie, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me. It was really fun just to get to know a little bit more about you and everything, the wealth of information that you can offer to the Cheif Everything Officers out there. And I love the idea of building up our business owner muscles, because that's not something we get anywhere else. So thank you for sharing your gift with the world. It's amazing to have you.
Oh, it's been absolutely my pleasure. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and just, keep working on those muscles, because the stronger those muscles are, the better business you're going to have and the more impact that you're going to be able to make.
Great. Thanks so much, Carrie, and thank you everybody for watching. We loved having you here on the Hangout. Again, head on over to FemmePowerU.com/hangout. You're going to be able to get all of those goodies from the Sharp Cookie, Carrie Sharpshair, and thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day, everybody.